Hey, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here, and today what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about something that might really help you better understand not how to play a scale necessarily, but how a scale interacts with the chord that you're playing over the top of. Now, when I teach this sort of thing, scales and all those sorts of things, just like you probably, you learn how to play with a metronome and you practice scales and licks and patterns and sequences and all those things, and that's great. You certainly need to do those things. But every once in a while, it's nice to just take the sound of a chord and just explore the tonality that the scale that you're trying to work with, how it sounds over the chord that you're playing. And in order to do that, what I like to do with students is kind of hold everything back. So instead of having a chord progression that has, 4 or 5 different chords and a tempo and a groove and all these different things, which gives them even more to work with, which is good, but they don't really spend enough time just exploring how the scale actually sounds. So let me show you what I mean. I've got a C major chord right here I want to play for you. Now what you're going to notice about that is it doesn't have a tempo, right? It's just one synth pad that's just playing for however long I want it to play. So I'm at this point, I'm not locked into a tempo, I'm not locked into a groove, I'm not locked into a bunch of different chord progressions. So I can just explore the sound of this chord, this C major triad, and the scale that I'm trying to explore a little bit. Okay, so let me show you instead of just talking the whole time here. So. Okay, so right there, I'm just playing the C major scale, okay? So what I can do, depending on how much you know, now you could use pentatonic, you could use diatonic, there's whatever it is you're studying. But what I really want to pay attention to, first of all, is how all these notes actually sound over the top of that chord. Then, maybe what I'll do is I'll start trying to use this synth pad that I got to explore more of my fretboard on a technical level, right? What can I see and how do I move and all those sorts of things. And how do the notes interact that way? Or maybe I've got some licks or some patterns that I'm trying to work on. And again, this way I'm not locked into 130 beats a minute or something. I can just practice things just to kind of get warmed up and get a feel for how things sound and how they feel and how they look. Literally anything. You could just take this sound and just kind of explore that C major scale. How in whatever capacity you see as most important in your practice, right? So the second thing that's really cool about this is, because I know it's this C major sound, maybe I'm going to try something else. Maybe I'll try another scale or another mode, like Lydian, for instance. If you know anything about Lydian, it's C major with a raised 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do is take the sound right there. I'm going to take that F sharp sound, and I'm going to explore that and kind of hear the difference between C major and C Lydian. So here we go. And I might go back and forth between C major and C Lydian and just kind of get a feel for that. Because, again, in theory, we learn that C Lydian is C major with a raised 4, but sometimes we don't really think about how important those notes are in terms of how they are reacting over the top of that chord. We learn our theory and learn that we have the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, but we don't really think about how colorful those other notes might be, the 2 or the 4 or the 6 or the 7, which we'll get to in a second here too. So let's take another mode. Let's take the next major mode, which is Mixolydian. Now, Mixolydian has a flatted 7. Okay, so now we've got this kind of sound. So let's take a look at that once. So again, you can see I can kind of explore the different sounds that Mixolydian is going to make. And if you don't know what all this stuff means, if you're not into modes yet and you don't know what Lydian or Mixolydian, don't stress about it. You could just use something like a simple pentatonic and it would work too. If you just took your, however, again, you like to see your scales. If you see C major pentatonic here. Anything. But the point is with this static sound, it's not forcing your brain and forcing your body into worrying about tempo just yet, or the groove of the song just yet, that sort of thing, or multiple chords that you have to be thinking about. Those are all really important, and don't get me wrong, you need to practice those too. But it's nice sometimes to either start here and get a feel for the scale that you're trying to explore on multiple levels, as I talked about earlier, or just to come back to this, just to have some fun with building up your practice routines with the scales that you're practicing or the licks or the patterns or whatever it might be. So I strongly encourage you to find a way of just being able to create this nice, easy, static sound. Now, what I use is a program. I'm not telling you to go buy this, but I use a program called Chord Pulse. Chord, C-H-O-R-D, Pulse, P-U-L S-E. It's all one word. I don't remember what company I got it from, but that's what I use to create these sorts of things. You might have a looper pedal that you could use for something like this, which is great. There's a million different ways you can do this. But it's just really nice because instead of giving you something that's going, well, that's awesome. But now it's given you a groove and a tempo that now you have to start thinking about, which I know I've said this 10 times, but that's great. That you need that. But once your brain goes there, sometimes it forgets to just explore the tonality of the scale and the chord that it's being played over. So anyway, so have some fun, keep practicing, stay positive, and let me know if this is helping you at all with your playing.